Hello, and welcome to Chief Architect Workshop. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks. Alrighty, today we're going to work with the 3D pull-down menu. We're going to start with the Orthographic View parent button. And here notice we are in this window. So these guys are clicked out. If we go into this window and we hit 3D, we have options here. So when we start with the inside out, we'll start with the wall elevation. We click this button here, and we're going to get this guy generating an interior elevation. You have to have, the room has to be defined. You point at a wall exactly at 90 degrees to get the flat on room definition. If you do this little cockeyed, your elevation is going to be a little cockeyed. Okay, the next button we're going to look at is the back clipped cross section button right here. And what's really cool about that, let's do one real quick. Back clip cross section. Click on that. If we go all the way here, we're going to get all that information out to this point. If we only do it here, and we want to keep it parallel, we only do just about a foot of information, we're going to get a nice cross section. That's why it's called back clipped. It doesn't show all the stuff in the back. It just has a very minimal look, which is great for calling out wall sections. It just describes a section of the building. Okay, then what happens when we take 3D orthographic, the full cross section through the building? So we'll start here, and now we're going to want all this information. Look at all the information that pops up all the way through the building when you cut the cross section. Now we get all sorts of happy stuff going on there. Okay, now we're going to talk about the elevation button, but let's jump down to create all elevations. When we hit all elevations, we're going to get these 4 elevation markers automatically generated. And those are cross-section elevation marks, which is the same as the interior, but this is just going to show the side of the building. So when we click one of these guys, we will get the elevation, which should look something like that. Okay, now let's talk about the orthographic views. Full overview. Let's do that one. And what happens there is you get an overview of the building. Let's blow it up just a bit, just for fun. And it's orthogonal. It's all lines. It's based. Does not have perspective. It does not disappear. It does not. It's vector based. It does not disappear into a perspective. Then we're on the 3rd floor, I believe, and if we click orthographic floor overview, we're only going to get an overview of that floor, and the floor is below it. So let's just blow that up a little bit. So you see what's going on that floor and the floor below it with floor overview. And let's not worry about the framing overview. That's just not necessary for a beginner to mess with. Let's move on to the perspective part of the 3D menu. We go to create perspective view. The full overview generates a perspective view. So what happens here is you'll notice that the lines will fade into perspective. So see how the lines are disappearing into the earth for perspective when you're doing this view, which differs from the orthogonal view. And the materials are called out, rendered nicely. I use this view a lot. I use perspective view a lot when working. It's the most common, easiest, gives you a really good idea what's going on with the building. And then when we hit 3D perspective floor overview, we get a perspective driven view. Things disappearing. in perspective. And that's nice for showing your client on a floor-to-floor basis what's going on. They really can see the detail in this view. And for a beginner, let's not concern ourselves with the perspective framing overview. We just don't need to mess with that. We already showed you create all elevations. You can do them one at a time, but I just always click that. I've got all 4, and I'm good to go. Okay, some of the rest of the stuff we really don't need to concern ourselves with. If we had a 3D drawing up, we could ray trace it, play with virtual reality, save the active cameras, edit the active cameras, but this is a conversation for another video, not for a beginner. Let's not mess with this when you're first starting out trying to figure out the program. Move camera with the mouse. Really don't want to mess with any of this stuff. Do use the mouse orbit camera a lot. That's how I moved around in 3D view before. Never use these. This never, hardly ever. This is just for tweaking it a little bit. If you go, oh, I just want to scooch it just a little bit. But you could have pretty good control just with the mouse orbit and not worry about any of this other stuff. Walkthroughs, a little bit more advanced. Materials, a little bit more advanced. Let's not worry about that. The painter, I use the material eyedropper a lot in 3D, but we can explore that in another video. Lighting, a little more advanced. Camera view options, again, a little bit more advanced. Rendering techniques, we can go over a little of that. Okay, let's go over some of the views. The rendering techniques. Standard view is this view. This is a perspective view with the materials. And then if we switch it to a vector view, it goes to an orthographic line generated view. All right, as long as we got that up, let's keep going. Show some other views. Glass house is kind of fun, sort of a 3D view of what's going on. That's a cool one. Duotone, sepia sort of quality to it if you would like. So you can play with the different rendering techniques. Just experiment with these. Physically based. I think this is not ready for prime time. Sorry, chief developers. I really don't like the color that renders and the gray here. Not working for me just yet. All right, for beginners, we really don't have to play with more stuff. Delete surface, that's if we wanted to get something out of the way that we didn't like and we wanted to show something below it. Let me see. If you keep clicking the delete surface command through all the components of the wall, you keep deleting it, and then you can do a little cutout drawing like that if you want. Hardly ever use that tool, not really a beginner thing. And I believe if you just hit the rebuild 3D, it'll just should cover all that up. There you go. So really, let's not worry too much about the rest of this stuff, the defaults. Sometimes it's nice to display the active camera if we want to go back to it, but typically for beginners, let's just stick to the default views. And that'll do it for the 3D pull-down menu. Thank you for checking out Chief Architect Workshop. Please remember to go to our YouTube channel, Chief Architect Workshop, and subscribe.